Well, move over, Bud Light. Executives at the North Face are now saying, hold my beer. It's time now for the other view. Well, the North Face clothing manufacturer is celebrating Pride Month with a drag queen for the second year in a row. Check this out.
Hi, it's me, Patagonia, a real-life homosexual. And today I'm here with the North Face. We are here to invite you to come out in nature with us.
Something about that doesn't really say rugged outdoors man or woman. I mean, a man in a wig and a rainbow-colored dress. Also, it seems very satirical to me, but it doesn't matter what I think. Let's hear what our panel thinks. Reporter for the Daily Caller and host of The Facts, Brianna Lyman, and Project 21 member Whitley Yates. Great to have you both with us. Brianna, I'm going to start with you here. I guess your reaction to this. Again, this is the second year that the North Face has used the drag queen Patagonia, which is also kind of funny considering the North Face also has a main competitor whose name is Patagonia.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly, right? Hold my beer. We have seen Target shares, for instance, this week, they're down, 11%. We saw what happened with Bud Light. And for some reason, North Face decided that this was the best move. And you have to remember, North Face is also owned by the same company that owns Vans and Timberland. And I think it's up for conservatives because we saw how well the backlash worked for Target, for Bud Light, to come out against North Face, right? You can go buy other clothing brands, go to small local companies. We do not need to be indulging in this nonsense and encouraging it by providing them the financial resources to put this kind of propaganda out.
Yeah, and Whitley, it's interesting, watching that little part of the ad that we saw. I mean, it seems, I'm going to say, and no pun intended here, very campy. Almost like, it reminds me of Dylan Mulvaney kind of, being almost excessively making fun of women, it seemed like. And this also has that very similar, almost over-the-top look, and it just is hard to take it seriously. But also, this is the second year in a row that the North Face has used Patagonia for their ad, and they didn't seem to suffer from it last year.
Right. And I think a lot of what we're noticing and realizing is that these companies and corporations have been doing this. We just haven't been paying attention. And so if you're attempting to sell fleece hoodies, jackets, and sweaters, I don't understand how this ad in particular is going to get you to do that. I think it's incumbent upon us to really understand what's happening here and the subculture that's being created, because this isn't about their products. It's about creating a new culture that basically says that this idea of trans, drag, etc., is the new normal. So it actually doesn't have a lot to do with selling products. It doesn't have a lot to do with advocating for anything that they're selling, but to create a new culture in our country.
Yeah, very well said. Also want to talk about this. A new bill being proposed in Michigan would allow trans athletes to play women's sports, just not win awards for them. Their results would instead fall in the boys category. And this is actually, as we're saying here, a GOP-backed bill. Good idea, Brianna.
I think it's a terrible idea. There should be no compromises made on science. And you have Republican legislators who are now saying, you know what, we want to, come across as negotiators. The kind of negotiations that they're putting forward for this bill are the kind of negotiations that belong when you're talking about things like the debt ceiling. You should not be making negotiations on basic scientific fact. And the more that we do this, and the more that we kind of cave into these, this left-wing culture, like, was just stated, the more that they think they can go further. The goalposts will continue to shift, so they have to take a stand.
Yeah, and Whitley, speaking of science, it seems like every day we hear about, again, more trans athletes playing women's sports. But speaking of the science, once again, there is actually a study. We've never heard about this study from the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and it was released last August. It finds that trans athletes, in fact, do have more strength, more endurance, and agility than females. Now, researchers pointing to greater muscle mass and bone density, bigger lungs, higher oxygen levels, and increased connections in the brain. And even they studied trans female men who identify as women. Even if they've had hormone therapy, they still have the scientific advantages over women. Whitley, why do you think we haven't heard about this? Just about out of time. Your thoughts?
Science is no longer the standard, it's satire. And that's what we're seeing on a consistent basis. We cannot bend to the wills and the policies of the progressive to placate this movement. It's so important for us to stand strong, not only against the satirical transgender movement, but also against anything that pushes our culture away from what we know is right, which is scientifically proven.
Exactly. Very well said. Brianna Lyman, Whitley Yates, thanks to both of you for being on The Other View. Love having you.